the armed resistance to Israel, those within Palestine and those from Yemen, Lebanon, Iran, and citizens of all countries of the world, Muslims and non-Muslims, who have paid and continue to pay the ultimate price for their armed resistance to the Zionist entity. May they succeed. Long live the Intifada! Long live the armed resistance! We are gathered here to unite in our call for a military intervention to stop the genocide and to dismantle the apartheid state of Israel and its illegal occupation of Palestine. This evening you will hear from Palestinian and non-Palestinian allies, all of them with a profound knowledge, experience and insight of resistance to the Zionist settler colonial occupation of Palestine. All of us united in the call for military intervention. We ask that you listen carefully to each speaker with an open heart and with an open mind and participate when the open floor comes for feedback and questions afterwards. Our vision for this event is that you will leave not only feeling convinced that military intervention against Israel is the right and legal way forward, but that you also recognize your own power, your own agency to make it happen, and work together as a community of people of all backgrounds, as we can see here, united in determination to succeed in this objective. But first, our starting point. The liberation of Palestine demands our own individual liberation from Zionist domination. Professor Noam Chomsky told us that the whole point of state propaganda is to narrowly limit the parameters of acceptable debate, to subdue a population, and prevent meaningful resistance to their oppression. But this evening, we have all awakened to the mischief of state propaganda, and we will go outside those parameters entirely, and we will bring you the uncensored truth. Israel has been exterminating the Palestinians for decades, and for the last 2 years, we have all watched a live-streamed genocide broadcast worldwide. We have watched in horror as the apartheid state has committed the worst atrocities known to mankind, the systematic annihilation of the Palestinian people. And through it all, we have watched. Nothing we have done so far has stopped Israel from continuing this genocide. Hundreds of millions have protested worldwide, but this public outrage has been insufficient. Boycotts have been insufficient. Resolutions of the United Nations General Assembly, insufficient. Binding orders of the International Court of Justice, insufficient. Arrest warrants of the International Criminal Court, insufficient. Every judicial and diplomatic mechanism that the world has to offer has been deployed to stop and restrain Israel, but nothing we have done so far has stopped the continuation of their unlawful, unhinged, relentless massacre of Palestinians, with recent figures now suggesting up to 680,000 Palestinians slaughtered. There is one simple reason that Israel hasn't stopped. It is committed to the extermination of Palestinians. It is committed. It says it in the very definition of genocide. Intention. Israel intends to physically destroy Palestinians, and it has been doing so right under our noses for decades. In 1937, Yosef Weitz, director of the then Jewish National Fund's Land Settlement Department, wrote the following: "It must be clear that there is no room in the country for both peoples. The only solution is a land of Israel without Arabs. There is no way but to transfer the Arabs from here. Not one village, not one tribe should be left. And the form of the transfer needs to be the creation of a refuge for them in Iraq, in Syria, and even in Transjordan. There is no other way out." And in 1941, when Weitz began to organize a plan for the practical ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, he stated, "From now on, it is necessary to work on a secret but fundamental plan on the transfer of the Arabs from here, which will be implemented under the supervision of an Anglo-American committee. Our redemption will come only if the land is vacated for us. That was in 1941, and that is exactly what they have been doing every day since then. Hundreds of Palestinian towns were razed to the ground, thousands slaughtered, and millions forced to leave their land in 1948 in a Nakba that has never actually ended. They don't see Palestinians as humans, not worthy of human life. It is, as Palestinian writer Edward Said said many decades ago, the only good Palestinian is one that is either dead or expelled. They have no use for us. The genocide we have been witnessing in Gaza for the last 2 years is but the continuation of the same ethno-nationalist supremacy based on pure violence that has no regard for law or morality, and which in 1948 even Albert Einstein and many other Jewish scholars described as closely akin in ideology, methodology, and philosophy to the Nazis themselves. In 1948, that was written. Why have we let this happen? If we have known for decades that Israel is committed to the extermination, then why haven't we stopped them? Why haven't we? Well, let us be kind to ourselves. Zionism doesn't just occupy Palestine, it has occupied the entire world. In Palestine, those who have resisted Israel have been subjected to decades to mass rape, slaughter, torture, and genocide. And outside of Palestine, those who have spoken up for Palestine have been subjected to repression, targeted attacks, and silencing. These are the tools of the Zionist entity. Brute, violent power, blackmail, corruption, all of it to sustain the genocide of Palestinian land and people. But comrades, there is good news. The story doesn't end there. There is a force far greater than every tool at their disposal. That force is living and breathing today in Birmingham. It is beating in every city worldwide. That force is al-Haq, the truth, the irrepressible truth. As Arundhati Roy said, no propaganda can hide the wound that is Palestine. Israel is a fascist state. It is a lawless state. It is a rogue state. It cannot be negotiated with and must therefore be defeated militarily until every one of their tools is broken and every perpetrator is brought to account. I have some more good news. It is now a legal obligation for this to happen. International law is on our side. Multiple rulings of the International Court of Justice, arrest warrants of the International Criminal Court, resolutions of the United Nations General Assembly all now confirm that under international law, every state in the world has an obligation to use military force against Israel to stop the genocide, to break the illegal siege, to implement a no-fly zone, open all the gates to Gaza and deliver food, aid and resources to all Palestinians, to force all occupation forces and illegal settlers out of Palestine. Their deadline was the 18th of September, 3 days ago. The only right they have left is to get out. This is international law. Israel must be smashed militarily, and people worldwide must now mobilize to make it happen until the Intifada succeeds and Palestine is free from river to sea. Let me address you. Palestine! Let me address you on the most important part. How do we as a community individually move forward? Many of you may think it's obvious. that Israel must be defeated militarily. Perhaps some of you have entertained the thought and thought, how will this actually work? The US is dominant. They keep supplying arms. We have the belligerence of the UK, the state in which we live in. We have the complicity of Zionist media. How do we succeed in moving forward? If we are to succeed, we will need a force militarily powerful enough to actually do it. The existing armed resistance to Israel, including from within Palestine and from within the Axis, have repeatedly shown us that Israel is weak. They have good technology. Their soldiers are weak. Their morale is weak. Their ideology is weak. They are now more diplomatically isolated than ever before in their history. Even their primary supporter, Donald Trump of the United States, is feeling the burn of resistance to Zionism among his own population. The MAGA diehard started to wake up and challenge Zionist domination in their own backyard. Yes, they still rule over the old world order, but that old world order is dying. A new one is emerging. For the first time this year, states are uniting in their commitment to stop Israel. President Gustavo Petro of Colombia, who has shown solidarity with the Palestinians, not just in words but in actions. 30% of Israel's coal supply was coming from Colombia prior to October 2023. We can fault them for that. They shouldn't have been, ever. But President Gustavo Petro very early on said, we're going to terminate Israel's supply of coal from us. I was working in Jordan at the time, advocating for that to happen, because the other state was South Africa. Two of the biggest allies of the Palestinians were the two biggest suppliers of coal. And they realized what they needed to do, and both states had political, legal commitments that have now been implemented to stop the supply of coal. Now think about what that meant. Taking on their own Zionist lobbies, taking on their own Zionist media, taking on the hegemony of the US to say no more for Israel. But most importantly, President Gustavo Colombia has called upon the Hague Group of Palestine, which includes Cuba, Malaysia, South Africa, Namibia, Senegal, Honduras, and Bolivia to form an armed protective force for Palestine. These are states with a history of solidarity with Palestine and a history of smashing Western colonial occupation off their land and the people. Imagine if these states were to send navies now, as we've been advocating for, to Gaza to protect the existing Freedom Flotilla, to break the siege. Civilians from all over the world have already shown their willingness to take on the siege, willingness to risk their lives, willingness to be detained, to do what states should be doing. We've seen them bomb the flotilla several times. Those people on the flotilla do not want to be bombed. They do not want to be detained. They want to break the siege. Now more than ever, these very states must send military vessels to break the siege. This is politically feasible. It is a moral necessity. It is a legal obligation. What is missing is political courage. How do we make this happen? Palestinian man who served his entire life in the armed resistance to the Zionist entity was murdered by the Israeli occupation forces last year. And before that murder, he wrote a final will and testament. In this, he wrote, "Before it was a battle of bodies, it was a battle of spirit." We are in that battle right now. And it is from Gaza that our spirit is empowered. Fadi Abu Salah, a poster you'll see of him, a Palestinian father of 5, whose legs were blown off from the Israeli artillery shelling was then killed in 2014 by Israeli snipers on the Great March of Return, when hundreds of thousands of Palestinians marched peacefully to the border with Israel to return to their original homes. 70% of those in Gaza were forced into Gaza from their original homes. And on that march were then slaughtered by the Israeli occupation forces. Fadi Abu Salah, in a wheelchair, attended, and with his slingshot, resisted. It is his spirit, though he is dead, that lives with us today. Fadi showed all of us what true power looks like. The power to face your oppressor, even after they have taken everything from you. And with your very last breath, show your oppressor that resistance is a sacred duty. When you have everything taken away from you, all that remains is freedom. Freedom to smash your oppressor. Freedom to resist. Freedom to pick up a stone and throw it at your oppressor. Freedom to say no. Freedom to say this is my land. Freedom to say this belongs to me. Freedom to say I will not take it anymore. So join the fight. We are one with the people of Palestine. Their fight is our fight. Join this call for military intervention. Demand that this is the way forward at protests. This is the way forward, as political representatives of 5 have already done this week. Call for military intervention. Jeremy Corbyn, Zara Sultana missing. Why are states not calling for what is their legal obligation? Because we are not calling for it. Break out of the propaganda. Demand what is right. Demand what is true. I lived in Jordan last year among Palestinian family. Before I close and hand to the next speaker, I want to teach you what I learned. At midnight at New Year's Eve, thousands of us gathered outside the US Embassy and took a pledge that we would not abandon the people of Gaza. A message was delivered to the complicit leaders of the Arab world. A man took a microphone and he said, Man ladei al-quwatu, nahna al-shab. Man ladei al-sultatu, nahna al-shab. I request that all of you join me now. Repeat in English this message and remember it always. Who has power? We the people. Who has authority? We the people. Who has power?